Welcome everybody back to the Figure Kit Garage, fellow resin heads and kit builders. Brent Krug back with work in progress number 2 of the Punisher, Hell-Bent on Death. The last time we worked on the main part of the base, and for those of you who didn't get a very clear look at how it turned out, this was the final result. You can actually see the base isn't as washed out because of the lighting, and I'm shooting from a different camera angle. But I really like the way it looks. I've enhanced the cracks in the stone a lot more, and I'm liking the way that turned out. Tonight we're going to concentrate on the angel figures, the death figure, and the 2 pinions that will go into the side. And I've already taken liberty of base coating these with Citadel's Dawnstone. Really nice medium dark gray color. Came out really well. I like the way Citadel paints go on. No brush strokes and completely flat, although I did seal them with the safety flat. And I'm going to start dry brushing these, and I'm going to dirty these up, make them look worn. I thought about doing them in marble, but I changed my mind. Because being in the base like it is, opposed to the lighter color of the stone, looks really nice. So I'm going to try and keep that darker tone in there, make a nice contrast. And I want to thank everybody for sticking with me. I'm sorry it took me so long to get the first video published. My editing software, I was using Animatica for quite a while. I probably still will use it for review videos. But sadly, the first work in progress video was almost 3 hours long, and the Animatica just could not handle the workload. So I'm going to start this with a dry brushing of Rain Gray. Use Rain Gray and Bridgeport Gray. Just shaking up. Actually, let me switch brushes here. I'll go with that one. And we'll start dry brushing the wings because there's a lot of detail down inside the wings that is not easily reached. So we'll start dry brushing those first. And the feather detail on these wings, I absolutely love these, so it'd be a shame if I decided not to do something like this. I'm going to put my glasses on for this one. It's starting to lighten up just a little bit. It's not that much lighter than the Dawnstone that I used, but it's just enough of a difference to make the feather detail stand out. I'm going to do some black and brown washes as well and go back over it again with more dry brushing just to make this stuff look aged and old. I may do some flecking as well to add a little bit more texture to it. And although I did base coat the back sides of the wings, I didn't base coat them all the way because about down to here, you won't see very much more of that because a lot of this will be butted up against the base where the angel will actually sit. Try not to get any streaks on the skin. Need to break down and buy a set of dry brushes from Garage Kits US. That pretty much shot my Micromark dry brushes. I kind of shot those to heck a long time ago. And it's starting to make a little bit of a difference in the detail. It's kind of hard to tell. You can definitely see down here at the bottom part of the feathers how it stands out. And even some of the hairs a little bit standoutish now, but once I hit that with a lighter shade of white, it'll really make a difference. Or lighter shade of gray, excuse me. But I want to keep it that dark tone so it has a nice contrast to the lighter stone color of the base. I don't want to go too overboard with it, but I still don't want to be too understated. But I definitely want to give it a very aged, old and weathered appearance. Now that I've finally got the additional, well, I'm still waiting on the Vallejo ground texture, the muddy ground that I'm going to be using around the edges of the base. I'm still waiting on that to show up. I thought it was going to be here by Monday, but it's been delayed. I guess not everything has made it through the COVID hustle yet. It's starting to look a little bit brighter. For a 3D print, that captured some really beautiful detail in the way these things look. Really nice, beautiful sculpted style. And if I can get all this done tonight, Then I'll do the Punisher skull as well. Although after only 2 days off and having to be back at work tomorrow, yeah, 2-day weekend is not a good thing. More overtime once again. But if it helps feed my bad habit for building model kits and having to buy the supplies, I'll take what I can get. That's coming out really nice. Hit this other wing. The only thing about this, the way these are designed, it's kind of hard to reach in behind the wings. Very, very tiny detail. A little bit on the cramped side, but much lighter tone. The best thing about working with 3D print like this is I didn't have to primer any of this. The resin actually soaks up the paint very well, which I know is kind of a surprise to hear, but and there's only one single coat of the Dawnstone that I put on this all the way around, and it took the paint really nicely. So I know I won't have a real headache with the Punisher when I get him started. Do the back sides of these wings a little bit just to get a little bit of detail in there. Not a lot of detail to be picked up, but that's okay. It's a little bit odd for me to be filming, because normally when I do stuff like this, I've got the item that I'm working on usually pulled back up against my chest trying to paint it. So this has been a rather unique experience. Not unwelcome, but definitely a learning curve. That's why I was kind of disappointed with the first video that I did, that the camera angle was not the best in the world. I think people saw more of the back of my right hand when I was airbrushing than anything else, and I got to apologize for that. So I decided to break out my tripod with my cell phone attachment and use that instead. You can definitely tell this is kind of a dimensional relief, that the way that it printed out, it's thin and flat along the sides, and when you look at it, from the front, it gives more of a three-dimensional feel, which is how a lot of sculptures are done, so it's actually really nicely rendered. Okay, that's one down. A whole lot to go. I think I'm going to do the pinions. These little things, I'm going to do these differently. Probably going to sponge the texture on instead of dry brushing, because there's no texture whatsoever. Well, it looks like part of her face did not print, but that's okay. That's really odd. I'd never noticed that before. Well, shame on me for not catching that little detail. Yeah, for some reason the lower half of the angel's face did not print in any way, shape, or form, but that's okay. It can, look like it's broken off. No statues are perfect in 3D printing. You will get failures from time to time. That's just a byproduct of the technology. And a few minor bits on the Punisher's cargo pants, that parts of the pocket flaps on the sides, cargo pockets, actually part of the flaps didn't print out at all, but I'm going to take some epoxy sculpt and make those look torn. And ripped up a little bit. Wouldn't be the Punisher without some kind of clothing damage, especially on him. Many fights as he gets into. I don't expect him to come home with a perfect wardrobe. And once again, the folks with the loud mufflers are out and about. Regular occurrence, especially behind my house. I think they use the street right behind my house for drag race testing, especially at 4:15 in the morning when everybody else is trying to sleep. But the time comes when Virginia and I leave California, I will not miss any of that noise in any way, shape, or form. Not too bad so far. this other wing. I love dry brushing, but you can really overdo something like this so easily. Seems like the easiest techniques to master are the hardest ones to control sometimes. Let's see how that looks against the base itself. Not too bad. It definitely has a different tone than the rest of the base, which is exactly what I was hoping for. So back in one more time on this one. Angel number 2 looking really good. Starting to come along in the weathering. Now we'll move on to Death. I'll probably work on these 3 until they're done, and then I'll do the 2 pinions last. Just because that's going to be a much different way of painting them than these guys will. Dogs will bark at the drop of a hat. It never fails. dogs get upset, they stay upset, don't they? Doggone it. Oh yeah, there go the fireworks. Clean this brush out and reshake this paint. Hope everybody is doing well. Staying safe. Things are continuing to reopen out here in Southern California. Although I wish the weather out here would figure out what it's going to do from one day to the next. Like the weather's been just freakish all over the U.S. Especially up in Denver, Colorado, where I didn't think they were getting snow there in the middle of April, and much to my surprise they did. I thought that was rather unusual. Okay. Now I'm going to go seal these off. Come back after they're sealed, and then we'll proceed on washing. Oh great, I just pulled my brush apart. There we go. Wash it with some Agrax Earthshade and some Nuln oil from Citadel, and that should give enough age to it to where I can go back over it and hit it with the Bridgeport Gray, which is a much lighter version. Apart from that, I'm liking how these are turning out. It didn't dry brush very well onto the death. Did a little bit, but not a whole lot. I'm kind of disappointed. But with the Angels, you can definitely see the dry brush. Detail stands out, although it's, now that it's drying, it's gonna dry down a little bit darker. But once I do the washes and everything, go back over it with that gray, and then I hit it with the Bridgeport Gray. That'll all start to stand out and really make that detail sing. Plus it'll push any mistakes that I made on the dry brushing back down a little bit, which won't be too bad. And I've got all my Garage Kits US grays that if I need to dry brush anything more, I can use those as well. So give me a few short minutes. Seal these off, let that sit for about 10 minutes, and we'll come back and we'll start weathering. Still waiting for a few more minutes. Let that cure all the way through and we'll be right back. Alright, we're back. Knocked over my little space heater. Alright. Now we'll start with Agrax Earthshade Wash. Make sure I get this shaken up really good. Get my rag. Yeah, it dried a little bit darker than I anticipated, but that's okay. Not really upset. Take this brush here, wet it down. Try to push that around a little bit. Don't want it to dry too heavy. I don't want it to dry too light. Hit the other wing. Start going over the angel. Oops, a little bit too heavy there, but that's all right. That out just enough. I really like these Citadel Washes. They had a nice, really nice color tone. Just about anything you put them on. Now I understand why gamers like them so much. A wide range of products as they have for miniatures and RPG. Citadel definitely knows how to get the right colors that companies like Testers and Vallejo and Holbein Aeroflash and even Garage Kits US don't make. Well, they come up with some of the oddest names for some of their products, but it's it's all right. Just about everybody does it. I don't think there's a company out there that doesn't have oddball names for their paint line. Definitely don't want any hard edges while I'm doing this wash either. That's why I'm tapping it with a paintbrush to texture it a little bit, but also thin it out. It actually looks really good. Get the back of that shoulder and the wing right there. And I'll have to reseal these again once I get the washes done. As you can see, it's adding a nice brownish tint to the gray that I've already used. And this will definitely keep it a slightly darker tone than the grays that I used on the primary part of the base. I swear that dog needs a playmate. He needs a friend. And no, I am not volunteering, because that particular dog is a very well-grown Doberman Pinscher. Beautiful animal. Doesn't have its ears cut, which I thought was really unique. You don't see that a whole lot with Dobermans, especially from their owners. But she's a real beautiful dog. Did have the tail clip, but they left her ears. She's a real pretty animal. Now that sounds a little bit odd to think that a Doberman unclipped is not a beautiful creature. They are. You've never seen one. I think they look even better with with the ears and the tail left alone. Never really agreed with that whole practice. But to each their own. Go back through and pat that off a little bit. Yeah, it's definitely toned it back down into the darker shade, which is okay, because I'm going to come back at it with the rain gray and then the Bridgeport gray. Really get that detail to stand out. And I'll probably wind up using the Slimy Grime Light and Slimy Grime Dark from AK Interactive around the bottom edges of the base, because I am going to put moss texturing all over this thing. Not all over, but in certain spots. But I want to have, since I'm going to have ground terrain, I want to have some kind of greenish tint to it to make it look like it's staining the stone. parts of this that you won't see. I'm still going to do the staining all the way around, along with the dry brushing as much as I possibly can. I'm going to get as much detail to stand out as possible. And I think this is actually texturing the ink by dabbing at it with a brush. Actually kind of gives it a faded, slightly dirty look. Definitely a lot of work, but well worth the effort in the end. You guys get the time, you should go check out Model Club TV. I don't think they have a new episode yet, but if you haven't seen any of the first or previous episodes, I've kind of rewatched them from time to time. And the WantaFest specials that they did last year, which kind of led up to Model Club TV going the full distance and becoming its own entity, which if you get the chance, you should check those out, along with Rob Madison's monster model review. He's definitely redone the videos that he's had. Like he said, he completely redid them with new links and everything else. And thus far, what he's done is actually worked out real well. So I'm going with a rag and pad that out. Oops. Turning this pot sideways every time I wipe my brush off. Start staining the wing. dry down and get the rest of the base. Where? There they are. I'm not worried about if some parts of these dried darker than others. Would actually fit in quite well with the overall idea that these are aged and worn down and, you know, is dirty from time. Not such a bad thing. Cement back up in there. Set her off to the side. Clean this brush out real well. Shake this up one more time. I've got it in mind to do a wash over the wreath once I get all the dry brushing and all the highlights and everything done. I'm going to do a green wash over the wreath and then a black wash over the roses. I think that'll look actually pretty cool. If it is if this is supposed to represent the angel of death, then I think black roses are quite appropriate. Just getting some air pockets out of where the wash has gone. Go back over that with a dry brush. That'll actually look really, really good. Whoops. Autofocus is playing games with me again. Okay, let's try this one more time. There we go. Yeah, that'll look really good. Re-dry brush it with the rain gray and then the Bridgeport gray. That'll actually start to stand out a lot. This wreath definitely has a lot of nooks and crannies that, for a 3D print, I'm actually surprised and a little bit impressed that it actually printed up that way. Although it's not 100% hand sculpted detail, it still looks really, really good. Kind of slop it in there in a few spots. Air bubbles or puddles out of it. All right. Go back over that since I made a clean spot. I'll be dry brushing back over that, so that's all right. Sometimes washes don't behave the way you want them to. That looks really good. Nice brownish gray. It's very aged and very weather beaten. Some of that gathered up underneath the folds of the hood a little bit.
Find your keys?
Be right back. I'm going to seal these up. And we're back. Now that these have cured, looking really good. I'm just going to come in with a Bridgeport gray and hit that with a nice lighter highlight. I was going to go back in with the rain gray, but decided against it. Start with the death figure this time. actually capturing that really, really well. That wash worked just perfectly. The dry brush is thin enough just to allow that some of that brown tone to show through. So I may mix up a little bit of this with some white. And hit even lighter. I think that's what I'll wind up doing, is mixing a little bit of the Bridgeport gray with some white and hitting even lighter weathering. Towards the end. Now that I'm actually starting to see this thing painted up, it looks really good. Actually starting to show up a little bit better now that I got the wash on there. That's a nice faded look. I like that. That brown really sells that faded look very well. Bring it back this way a little bit. Start dry brushing down here a little bit too. I do have the side garage door open, so if you start hearing a lot more noises, a little bit stuffy in here earlier, so oh, where's a cop when you need one? But then again, with everything that's gone on lately, some people might not consider that such a good thing. But I'm not gonna expound on politics or law enforcement. It's not why I'm here. It actually looks really nice. It's actually starting to dry down a little bit, so it's getting a little bit darker in the gray tone. Not too dark, but it's showing up just enough to be just enough to stand out. It's a real nice effect with that brown wash. I don't think I'll need the black wash for this. At least not until I do the roses, but I'll probably use the transparent black from Createx for that. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Let's see how that's going to look inside that base. Oh yeah, still has enough contrast against the lighter stone color. Yeah, that'll look really good. That'll look really, really good. Now we'll get on the angels themselves. And the answer to Virginia's question, yes, I did find my keys. They were actually out here in the garage where I'd forgotten I had them. Turn these things at all odd angles just to get this dry brush the right way. Shoot. There we go. Looks really good. Still see the brown underneath that gray. Yeah, now those wings are really going to stand out on the edges a little bit. Starting to look a lot better. Hopefully you can see the brown in that. Starting to turn out nice. Once I hit it with an even lighter dry brush, it'll really start to stand out even more. All right. Now it's starting to come together. I apologize if I'm not very talkative. Trying to keep my head on straight and do these as best I can, but I will explain everything I'm doing as I go. Rinse out my brush real quick, reshake that up, and we'll start on this one. Start down here first. I need to dry out my brush a lot better. Some of this is getting too wet, so it's smearing where I'm trying to dry brush. Shoot. So it looks by comparison. Not too bad. Too bad at all. Okay. I'll definitely go in with a lighter dry brush again. Just punch up some of those highlights. All right. Hit that edge of that wing that I missed. Okay. Now let's get my paint palette. I'm going to take some of this Bridgeport gray. Try and keep this video as short as possible. If not, I may just end with finishing these figures and then gluing them in. Now I'm taking the Bridgeport gray, mixing it with a single drop of oyster white. That really lightened that up a lot. It's a good color. So start back up with the death figure. Yeah, those highlights are looking a lot better. Not going to completely cover up the previous dry brush. I just want to enhance certain areas. So that it will a bit more contrast to it. Yeah, that looks nice. I'm in no rush to get this done. Make sure everything I do is the way I've had it mapped out in my mind since the very beginning. And if that means it takes me more than one video to get this base finished, then so be it. Since this is not for a client, it's my own personal collection, I'm not on a time crunch. So I am not worried. And I want to thank everybody that's subscribed recently to the Magic 162. It seems like a low number for a lot of people, but for me, I don't take that lightly. I appreciate every single subscriber that has seen my videos, liked them, and liked them enough to subscribe to my channel. It's greatly appreciated. And you guys are the reason why I am doing this set of work in progress videos. Maybe, just maybe, I may do more. About trying to get Virginia in on one with her Phantom of the Opera kit from Typhon Studios, but that was a no. It's okay. I can't blame her for being apprehensive about doing something like that on camera, so no big deal. That looks even more faded. Maybe hard to see in the camera, but the highlights are definitely starting to come out. And that brownish gray, that brownish wash really did a number on that, so that looks really good. I'll let that sit and see if I need to do any more to it. And we'll go for angel number 1. So hard to hit that down inside and underneath her arms. So and there are some details that are so fine with the printing process that the dry brush isn't even picking them up. So, another, doggone it, I keep hitting that too hard. Just another growing pain of 3D prints. Sometimes the details will be so minute, it's like they're there, but you'll never be able to feel them. Oh, didn't want to streak that, damn it. Actually, I kind of added to the feather detail. Wasn't intentional. Starting to get a nice, really nice faded look. Hard to hit some of these details like this, but I don't mind having a faded look on stone. Actually helps it look a lot better. Pull the base out here. Yeah, it's still enough of a good contrast against with the stonework I did. That'll actually look really, really nice. So, put the base back over here. And we'll start in on angel number 2. Clean this brush out real quick. Definitely time for a new set of dry brushes, because I hate ruining some of these I've run so many brushes doing dry brushing over the years, it's not even funny, as I'm sure we all have at some point. But if you can get them cheap at Hobby Lobby, why not? Some of this is smearing, and I'm not really liking that. It's so hard to dry brush on this one part. There we go. A lot better. Why do the weekends have to end? Muffler, dude. Muffler. Yeah, same level of detail, so hit the insides of these wings, and I think these, also the bottom parts of the bases. So I need to give that dog a jerky treat. Or a box of them. Alright. Really liking how those turned out. Nice, beautiful faded stone. Let's see how those look in the base. Just a quick test fit. Make sure I get these right. Oh! Great. Please tell me I didn't scuff up any paintwork. Ah, no. Not too bad. Still has a dark enough tone in it. Stay. It actually contrasts with the rest of the base, so I do like that a lot. I'm very happy with how that turned out. Still going to do the wash on the wreath and the roses. I really like that. That looks nice. Look. A beautiful contrast. And that brown wash helped that contrast stand out even more so. And it definitely looks like two different types of stonework. So I'm very happy with how that turned out. Sometimes getting these things out of here is a real pain. But, all right, I'm going to pause this camera, seal these up, let them dry, then we'll be right back. All right, we're back. Now I'm going to do the wash on the death figure with the wreath and the roses. Come to think of it, I might just leave that alone. I may just leave that as is. I think that looks good like it does. Doesn't look too damn bad. I think I'll leave the wreath as is instead of washing over with black and red. I think I'll just leave that the way it is and just leave it stone. Looks really sharp. I like that a lot. Okay. Now I'm going to get a sea sponge. Poor thing hasn't been used in a while. Dampen that up a little bit. Cut a little bit of this off. Set the other one over here. I'm going to come in with some German gray. And we're going to stipple these with sea sponge. And go from darkest to lightest. Try to get up in there as much as I possibly can, although it's not going to be easy. Get more of that out of there. It's way too heavy. Some of that up in there is a little bit of a pain. The paint. There we go. A lot better. Still want some of the Dawnstone gray to show through. At the same time, I want to add a darker texture into it. A little bit more. Heavier on the other one than I did on this one. Now, they're not going to match 100%, but I'll get them as close as possible. All right, rinse this puppy out. As best I can. I do plan on leaving this a little bit darker than the actual base color. So come in with, try to give this dark gray a try. Oop, tip end is plugged up. Don't you hate it when that happens? May have to go with my stippling brushes in some of these areas where I haven't been able to get into. Definitely tones that down quite a bit. A little bit late getting back from pausing the video, I had to check the NHL scores, see whether or not my beloved Chicago Blackhawks, and yes, I am a Blackhawks fan, folks, see whether or not they're going to make it into the playoffs this year, and the answer is probably not. We had 3 teams in the Western Conference clinch playoff berths. Las Vegas, Colorado, and now Minnesota clinched tonight. And the way things are going, the Hawks were doing really good earlier this year, and boom. Quite literally, boom. They really did not. They slid a lot, but you can't win them all. Can't be upset with my boys. They're in the middle of a rebuild, so still love them no matter what. And for all the Golden Knights fans, Colorado Avalanche fans, and Minnesota Wild fans, you know, for what it's worth, congratulations on your teams making it to the 2021 playoffs. And that's as far as I'm going to go with that. Definitely not a fan of any other team but my Hawks. But I can't hate on anybody else for making it into the playoffs. We did it 3 out of 7 years. So, interesting to see who'll get the Stanley Cup this year. I don't know exactly what these things are supposed to be in relation to the base. Never seen anything like them before. Mausoleum-wise or anything else, so I really do not have a clue what these things are supposed to be. I'm not sure if they're... Oops. Eternal torches, or they're not urns, so I am not sure what purpose these things actually serve. To be truthful. There we go, a little bit better texture on that. I think once I get these things done and sealed off, I'm going to call it done on this video. I'm not going to do the Punisher skull tonight. I can do that next week, and then once I do that, I can actually get the angels and the death figure glued in. So I can get a little bit more texture on this one. Sorry if I keep pulling back away from the camera so you guys can't see anything. Hopefully I've been able to keep everything in focus for you guys to see. And actually doesn't look too bad. It looks kind of nice. There's almost a marble texture to it. Looks really good. Well, it is kind of dark, which is what I wanted. I wanted to keep it that way. Even though the Bridgeport gray is a very light tone, the darker colors keep punching back through, so it kind of mutes that a little bit. That's not too bad. I like that. I like that a lot. I am going to break out one of my stippling brushes. Try and get up in that area where that sponge couldn't go. See if we can mimic that pattern. There we go. That's a lot better. That'll actually start to blend in really nicely. I'm not too worried about the tops of these because you're really not, once I get these glued in, you're really not going to see them at all. Okay, that looks really nice. Let me pour out some more of that German gray. I don't need very much. Okay. Blends that in really nicely. Okay. Now, a lot of the stuff I've done tonight, I've done without sealing anything off in between, because when I hit it with the flat sealer, I want all these colors to melt together and look 100% natural. Except for the angels, which I decided to go ahead and just seal them off as is. As I went. Especially after I got the wash on there, because those washes can actually smear if you're not careful. You reactivate them with acrylics, and it becomes a pain in the ass just to try and redo everything all over again. Which is not what I wanted to do, but I've done it before. Live and let learn. So that's that one. Okay, that's a nice even blend on that color. That was the dark gray. We'll go back in with the Bridgeport gray and blend that all the way around. And these should be completed. More of that on my brush. It's a little bit too bright. It's actually starting to look really, really good. I said in my last video, if you guys get a hold of a set of these stipple brushes, they are a great way to add texture to just about any surface. These were well worth the expense. Not bad. Nice blend. All right. So that is the angels, the death figure, or angel of death, whatever you want to call it. That is the two pinions for the base. I'm going to go ahead and put one of the pinions in there to see exactly how well that's going to fit in. Oh yeah, it's nice contrast. Very nice contrast indeed. Darker stone against a lighter background, I like that a lot. That's really going to come out sharp. And then next video should be the final video for the base. I'm hoping should have the ground texture in. I've already got the small twine that I'm going to use for the creeping vines, and I should have, I'll also be doing the moss, slimy grime, and everything else on that to try and get this done. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Like what you see, like, subscribe, share it. Any questions, feel free to ask. I may not get to your questions right off the bat, but I will answer them as fast as I can. So once again, this has been Work in Progress number 2 from the Figure Kit Garage on the Punisher, Hellbent on Death. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Stay healthy, stay safe, build a kit.